On today's video, we're about to begin our coverage of Lost Kingdom 36. That is right. In this video, we're going to start off from the kickoff of Kingsland and talking about flagging strategies to see how things worked out and who had the upper hand early on. We're going to focus on 2 frontiers of the 4 fighting. We'll talk about those teams in the video. And of course, show you some insane reports. And spoiler alert, all you're about to see is the first few hours of what was a 20+ hour fight. I believe it was like 27 hours, where at the end of it, one kingdom tried to hold for as long as they could against 3 others, and things got really nasty. So sit back, smash a like on the video. Hey there YouTube, welcome back to Gekko Gaming. Kingsland's gates opened up, these guys are in, and it's time for the fight to begin. Before we start though, really quickly, I'm a sponsored content creator by Rise of Kingdoms. If you enjoy the content, slap a like on the video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're back, baby, grinding the content. I hope to see you all with us and seeing the channel grow again. We go strong, but what doesn't go strong is what's going on in the game right now. What you're watching is actually 200 times, meaning it's 2 times the speed, and it was this laggy. It was that laggy in the beginning of this fight. It was impossible to see anything and do anything, as both these frontiers, yellow against pink and green against red, start duking it out for the corner. In the green against red corner, which is the area we'll focus on the most, green started with a very good early advantage as they managed to drop the second most important, well, the most important flag in the beginning of taking Kingsland. As you can see, if you haven't seen our previous videos about flagging in Kingsland, we'll leave you a card up on the top right for that. But there are very crucial flags that you need to drop early on, which are primarily in the corners of the territory that is between you and your opposition. Those flags are the quickest ones to essentially get the confrontation going. And the name of the game here is whoever builds the second flag first can potentially lock the other team from progressing in the direction they're supposed to progress. As you can see, green is supposed to go from left to right, and red is supposed to go from up down. But with that green flag on the way, red might have trouble. They could not place any flag anywhere, and this is a place where we can start discussing a little bit of strategy. When you'll look through the footage as we continue going through this, you'll notice a few things about the placement of the Red Kingdom, and more specifically, they targeted so much early on fighting and things like that, that we saw very often that groups of their marches marched home because the target they honed in was killed. These are the alliances fighting in here. I don't remember honestly who's from where. I took this right at the beginning so you can see all the power. We're looking at 7 or 8 kingdoms with 10 billion power, and the top 25, if I'm not mistaken, are still all over 3 billion power, which is kind of nuts. There's too much power in here. 399, a huge powerhouse. 279, a big kingdom as well. You have 375 in the mix, and so many more kingdoms in here, well, 8 of them total, that were really grinding it out. As time progressed, it seemed like green weren't able to get their footing in on the next flag to try to really cut off red, and red took that as a good sign, and they started flagging to cut green off. As you can see, another alliance from the Red Alliance has now started flagging more towards locking this area. As it turns out, this is the same alliance that owns that corner. But what they ended up doing is, as they lost the second flag, they didn't want to lose too much positioning, so they took the pass and started flagging towards their initial flag from the pass. And that allowed them to essentially drop a couple of flags at the same time to really create a situation where this green team, which I believe this was BBTH who were in this corner, were in real trouble. Yeah, that is BBTH right there. On the other side, even MCO and green 399 were going crazy. At this stage, the kingdom in blue, which are, who are the 406 US's, the 406, apologies, I forgot the 4. I thought 306 for a second, but it's not the case. 406's were already in huge trouble. Their pass had already been highly blocked by blue. Green was coming in. They tried to go around, but that went really bad really quickly. Pink really locked yellow very early on. This is maybe not even an hour into this, and yellow were already completely devastated. Pink managed to lock them with the flags, just like our video explains, and within 3 hours-ish, there was no more yellow to talk about. Granted, yellow later on tried to push out and almost did a massive push, but we'll talk about that once we get there. For now, yellow are out of the picture very quickly, and it kind of reminds me of a KVK we were a part of, except that we went down much faster. It was the same corner. With that being said, it started to heat up on the red and green department. Now, I don't know if y'all know who these kingdoms are, but 399 is one of those kingdoms that was engineered to be a powerhouse. These guys coordinated a massive migration where BBTH, Eve, MCO, and a ton of other players made it in here. There was 2 waves of migrations. They managed to drop themselves out of Imperium twice to get waves of migration in. And as part of those waves, some of my old friends, and still my friends and old teammates from JWM, Hulk, Moo, Julius, and company, some of them you guys know as SEAL Team 6 from the past, they're all in that kingdom. And I know these people. I know how they play. I know how they approach the game. And I knew 279 was in deep trouble. As rallies are going all over the screen, I kind of want to give you more of a storyline and what's going on while you get to enjoy the awesome fighting going on in the background. For the record, at some point we found like 4 rallies on the screen, 6 rallies, double rallies. It was crazy. Our friends from Eve and from MCO and BBTH are some of the bigger whales and some of the more savvy players in this game. Some of these people, they don't have a limit. Someone, for example, like Hulk, shout out to Hulk, a really cool guy. He has what he needs and more. One of the players that I would not want rallying me, or I wouldn't want to even rally a garrison of his, which I doubt he really has a garrison that's too good, but even his garrison is probably twice as good as my big account's garrison. He's a really insane player. But he is not like the thing here, right? He is one of many of those players. And when you have those players, they are the ones who are pushing the morale forward. The one thing that a lot of folks don't realize is that the mega whales and the big players and the savvier players, what they tend to do is they tend to motivate even the smaller player to try to be to do as much as they can. A lot of these guys are also very relentless and very merciless. If you don't participate, you won't find yourself alive in these kinds of kingdoms for very long. They straight up don't look for these kinds of people. And 399 is a kingdom that is stacked with insane warriors. 279, for the record, is a very strong kingdom. They're not to be messed with, and they really fought a few KVKs to a very bloody level and situation. But the thing is, again, they are going up against something they have not gone up against before, which is a complete relentless set of players that have tons of the commanders available, a lot of good equipment. They don't care about swarming flags. They don't care about swarming rallies. They don't care about losing troops or dying or any of those things. All they care for is to win the fight. 279 really flagged well. They dominated a huge area of that Kingsland and got to the point where they were the main focus. They were the main attraction, as they were also the only big kingdom that still lasted in Kingsland for a certain period of time. After they started getting themselves in gear, and oh my lordy, the first report is up, and this almost does like 27-ish million power. Down the drain it goes. And a Takeda that's fairly good, 92% health, 281 cavalry attack is no joke of an Takeda. And it came onto a Yisan Sin Theodora by Elfam's Animal. And boy, oh boy, that negative trade was rough negative trade right there. And of course, the flag ended up burning. These kinds of situations, there's counter rally, and that counter rally at least did a positive trade, but it wasn't enough to help the flag. These kinds of situations are very tough because you're running against a kingdom that has so much of the morale pushers, the people that get you to continually go, that it's very hard to catch them on downtime. They do have some downtime, and 279 managed to play it to a very, very good extent. BBTH, as an example, were the corner kingdom and the corner alliance, and you saw early on that they really struggled to get some territory in there. Here's a rally by Moo, one of our friends from X Kingdom 59, a good, nice little trade, 3.2 million power to the 1.9. One of the nastier Attila Takeda's, 98.5 cavalry health, 282 attack. This man's no joke. His Attila Takeda was featured a couple of times in past wars. He was a rally leader in JWM as well. And in general, like, the attitude is really everything. I don't know how to explain to you how much a set of these players that continually push forward motivates people to continually go. I can tell you that in Kingdom 541, for example, we had some of these players, and every time they came online and every time they were doing something, we noticed more activity as just more people didn't want to let the big whale down. So when you have a kingdom that has people that motivate you to push forward, the presence is always there. Even on their downtime, and even when the kingdom in red managed to burn a substantial amount of flags and gain massive territory, it didn't take much for green to wake up and push them right back out. And so it was a really, really tough, it's a tough thing to explain until you feel it. And I think that the 279 viewers in here will definitely appreciate what I'm saying, because that mental pressure and the constant pressure that comes out of these massive kingdoms is really overwhelmingly hard to deal with. In this scenario, we have a rally, and then a counter rally, and then a counter rally on the rally. That's how crazy things got. And a counter rally on the rally that's rallying the counter rally is just like, it got so much worse than that. The thing that the kingdom in red did really well is that they never allowed the pressure to dictate the momentum of the match. While these guys were totally getting pressured, they were also pressuring back at the same time. Now, this is doable because of having enough players to do both things. It is impossible to pressure back and defend at the same time with 20 players. It's just impossible. It's impossible to do it with 40 players, with 50 players. But when you have 2 or 3 full alliances online, and these guys had them, then you can really start doing some damage on both directions. And this is how, honestly, 279 managed to really impress me. I have not seen many kingdoms that were able to push back a kingdom like 399 as much as 279 did. Granted, the results of what happened in this KVK are in the game. You can go to Lost Kingdom 36 and see who won, who lost. But that's not the point. The point is not the end result. The point is how they got, the way they made, and if they made it or didn't make it, why it happened. And so 279 continually kept putting on the pressure. And when they did that, they did not allow the Green Kingdom to dictate momentum. As a result, the Pink Kingdom ended up coming in to duke it out with the folks in Green to help them out. And then I believe it was Green who came. It was Green, Pink, and maybe Orange. I don't remember. We'll see in the map in a second who fought where. I forgot who was the third kingdom. But at some point, it got to the point where Red were fighting a Frontier against BBTH in Green, a Frontier against Eve in Green, a Frontier against MCO in Green, a Frontier against a Pink Kingdom, and a Frontier against another kingdom you'll see in a moment. And 2 of their allies were completely donezo. Blue team, gone. Yellow team, gone. At this stage, okay, they did eventually come back into a push, and the blue team almost actually got Baby Blue completely off the map. That is right. 406 almost pushed 299 all the way home. Almost by the skin of their teeth, they didn't get it done. But yellow never showed up again. Their push was great, but it gained a little bit of ground, but it was instantly taken back once the folks in 375 woke up. The kingdom that really impressed me was 293 in purple. And for the record, you have up on the top right the legend of this, which will tell you exactly which kingdom is what in the colors. I was really impressed with 293 in purple. These guys were really relentless in the way they did things. And even when they had a sliver of territory left, they managed to hold back one of the opposition's kingdoms and lock them in place. And they came in to help double rally the pink kingdom with red. And so it was really cool to see 293, even with a very small margin of error that they can go through, or else they're knocked out of Kingsland, still putting in the pressure to help 279 try to push back 375. They did manage to burn flags, and they even managed to get rid of a few flags along the way, but it was a crazy situation where I couldn't know where to film, really. I just, as you can see, started just moving around the frontiers, and rallies were going on everywhere. Rallies were absolutely going on everywhere. Elfam, Titans, Pokemons, and that's the 279 crew, Eve, BBTH, MCO, BLN, and the rest of the crew with the squiggly in the center, that some of them being Legends Gaming, from the good old friends that we started the Jumper account with a long time ago. More reports coming in as PK Al, aka Sebs, a hugely strong player, a very capable player. Actually with a negative trade against the Titans. That's right, a negative trade by BBTH. It was here against the Isan Sin and Theodora. Clearly there was something there that Isan Sin Theodora really held well. The Elfam rally right here, I believe it did a massive damage. It didn't burn the flag, but Lord have mercy, an 18.8 million power loss right there. 1 million dead troops on each side, more severely wounded on the BBTH side. A massive loss by the folks of BBTH and Green. Banana, my Banana, being an ex-Kingdom 59 member as well. Boy, oh boy. These fights were non-stop. Both sides traded both positively and negatively. But I'll tell you what the difference between both sides was. The difference was a complete, how would I say it? A completely different setup in the way the accounts worked in those kingdoms. In the 399 department, a lot of the players have a very long, big roster of troops, resources, and speed ups. And the distribution of power in those kingdoms in 399 is really massive in terms of having a little bit of a heavy stack, but that heavy stack is not like Kingdom 59 used to be, where you had like 5 players that were 200 million, and then it would go down in a grid increment, in a big number, right? These guys have a very solid, huge top area with a lot of massively stacked players who did not care to continually keep losing troops. What ended up happening is that at the end of the day, these guys also have secondary accounts that they use for farming and for doing other things. And I can tell you that I know of a few folks who played 2 or 3 of their account and their farm, or their account and 2 other farms, actually fighting. I can tell you that someone in Kingdom 399 who launched rallies also joined his own rallies with his own tier 4s from their farms. So it's like the continuous amount of porridge of troops was truly overwhelming. The team in green knew the way to win. The way to win was take the open field and get the pressure going. The problem is that they really weren't winning the open field for a fairly decent amount of time. As you can see in here, Elfam had complete dominance in this field right here, but for some weird reason, they were trying to stay a little more conservative and get away from the swarming of rallies. Now, rally swarming has become a thing. Whether you like it or not, it is a thing. If you don't care for losses and you're trying to win no matter what, rally a swarm. That is not a big deal. But the good thing about having the open field, which for the record, in here they did start swarming the rally once there's also a reason to do so. At this point, the rally is below in terms of health than the flag is, and then they allowed themselves to stop for swarming it, and the rally canceled, and that was that. Rallies are not safe anymore. Unless you own the open field, you're going to have a very tough time winning flag fights. You can see Eve right here coming in with a couple of players trying to clear out the open field nearby the flag, not trying to get a little bit of AoE done, but they are clearing these marches off. This is a very important process because if they're looking to maximize their wins, they're going to want to have what's happening right here. A rally against a flag, because at the end of the day, if there's no open field reinforcements, that Takeda is going to do its damage. I don't really know what to tell you about the rest of the kingdoms that we did not mention. 406, we'll take a look at them later on as they pushed out. By the time I got to 406, they kind of got locked in already. They're going to be part of our story later on, and so will be Yellow Bee. I don't really know what happened with the rest of them. It was like the two A teams, I guess, went at each other, and maybe it's AABB. I forget what this was. Someone from this Lost Kingdom in the comments down below can let me know about it. But regardless, this was where it was at. This is now where the pressure is. These are the kingdoms that are either going to win this KVK or lose this KVK. And green can easily take out all 4 kingdoms against them, and red can easily take out all the other 4 kingdoms against them in the sense of activity, knowledge, player base, and everything along the way. It was all a matter of who makes the first mistake. And green did make the first mistake, but they managed to overwhelm the field and overwhelm red and get themselves back in the game. Now here's the pickle. Red also had to deal with pink and also had to deal with one more kingdom, which I believe maybe was baby blue. There was nothing they could do, right? In the 3v1, you're in a really, really, really bad place. You can say, oh, but JWM went up 4 against 1 and won. That is not necessarily true nor false. It is true that it happened, but it's not necessarily just that simple. In JWM's case, we had the opportunity to fight the top fight very, very early on, and really the folks of 337, while they were very good at fighting and they fought very well, we really took over that area very quickly. And so it was a 4v1, but it was 4 1v1s. And at some points, it was like a 2v1 and then a 1v1 again, and then a 2v1 and then a 1v1 again. And so it wasn't like a full 4v1 or 3v1 at most of the time. But in here, these guys for probably 12 hours were taking rallies from 3 different kingdoms, 6 different alliances, and just stupid amounts of firepower. I didn't want to progress too much into this Lost Kingdoms timeline, but we will advance in the timeline and in the story of what went down a little bit more in the next video. In this one, I wanted to lay the grounds on what was at the beginning of this fight. The corner was lost by green team. Red team did manage to take that corner and push BBTH fairly back. That was a very, very tough battle right there. They managed to bring them almost all the way back to the wall, and then on the downtime, and then there was you'll see what happens. And yeah, it was, as you can see, one rally goes this way and the other rally is going that way the whole time. The whole time these guys were going nuts. This was the final flag, I believe, that they needed to get rid of in order to really secure this corner. And red did secure the corner for a bit, but green, with their overwhelming power, did manage eventually to retake their corner back. Winning the corner is not enough. You have to be able to also retain the corner, and you have to be also able to forget about the corner, retain it and kind of forget about it, right? Like have a little bit of firepower in there just in case to hold on to it and continue going anywhere else. The problem here was that BBTH was kind of like I mentioned in the flagging video, is the more known name out of that kingdom, but it wasn't necessarily where I saw most of the firepower, in the sense of, for a very long time, some of the peeps that I know from this kingdom were in Eve, a little bit of them were in MCO. At some point when things got tough in the BBTH frontier, a bunch of them went into BBTH and they swapped back to Eve. And that's really one of the great things about having so many insane warriors in your KVK, that at the end of the day, there are 3 misconceptions in KVK that were really broken in these past few KVKs. 1, I am part of Alliance X doesn't mean anything. If your kingdom knows what it's doing, the most likely outcome is that you are hopping between alliances for certain situations at any given time. And so it's important to remember that, because it also is part of teleporting. You can see that a lot of these folks didn't teleport due to resource nodes, but even when they did, it was very clear when they were swapping alliances, they were porting to different territories to ensure they're safe, but also to fulfill a certain role. Number 2 thing that was completely shouted out of the world is you do not swarm on a Tel Takeda rally. Spoiler alert, you do swarm on a Tel Takeda rally if you want to, and it is doable, and it has won KVKs. My Tel Takeda rally didn't even make it to the flags half of the time. They got swarmed by 40 marches that shared the distribution of losses and destroyed our rallies, never allowed us to even have a frontier. And the final thing, the third thing that was shattered in this KVK, in these KVKs lately, is that owning the open field is more important than even winning the flag fights. And at some point in time, this happened already a couple of seasons ago. I believe it was even at season 2 or 3. Season 3, I think it was, maybe 2. That we really saw that, if you don't own the open field, then rallies don't have a way to continually keep hitting the flag. Because a Tel Takeda is so punishing, for a little bit when a Tel Takeda was still kind of fresh for the first few months of them, nobody dared to swarm flags. So even if it is swarm rallies, so even if you didn't have the open field, as long as you rallied, your rally wasn't going to be messed with. As time went by, rallies are getting swarmed nowadays, and the open field is more important than ever. The open field is always important, but again, with the Tel Takeda being so painful, nobody really dared to rally on a Tel Takeda, to swarm on a Tel Takeda. And for the record, that point is so clear in the fact that when I say swarm at Tel Takeda rallies, I believe that a bunch of you guys are like, no effing way. That's who is stupid enough to do it? Well, it's not stupid if you take the losses and you're okay with it, right? And so at the end of the day, you took massive losses but won the KVK. Why not, right? And so swarming at Tel Takedas has become a thing. The counter rally with swarm has become a thing. And overall, the experience in KVKs has shifted dramatically. In the next set of KVKs, I'm fairly confident we might not even see that many rallies anymore as the focal point of fights, but rather open field fights and even flag swarming as some of the more orthodox things to do per se. As the flag starts getting weaker and weaker, get a few marches there to start swarming it up to get that health to go down quicker. At the end of the day, if you can scout the flag real quick to know that there's 400, 600, 700,000 troops in there, and you have a rally hitting it plus 5 marches, that flag is going to go down quick, but so are the troop counts in your account. For now, we're going to take a break here. This is probably literally, if you can take a look at the time, I believe this started at 8:30 a.m. or something around that. It is 10 already. So 10 UTC. It started at 10:40 my time, and now we're about an hour and a half, 2 hours into this fight. And there's so much more recorded, as well as so much more to talk about, a ton of extra reports, as well as a very nasty one at the end of all of this. For now, I'm Gekko. I'm out of here. Appreciate if this kind of video. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me feedback down below of things you want to see more, what you want changed and stuff like that. We have more footage of the whole map coming in the video. Don't worry, we'll still cover you for that. And if you have any other feedback from me of things that you think I should add and change and do in these videos, by all means, let me know down below. I'll see you all sooner rather than later. Take care and have a good one. Peace.